Welcome back, Coinology. The 1984 D1 coin opens a fascinating window into American numismatic history, a year that quietly produced one of the most discussed modern Lincoln cents among collectors, investors, and everyday people who suddenly realized that something small in their pocket might carry an extraordinary story. When people hear 1984 D penny, many assume it is just another common cent, mass-produced and ordinary, but the deeper you go, the more you uncover layers of history, minting science, design evolution, rare errors, and market psychology that can push certain examples into astonishing value territory. This single cent represents far more than copper and zinc. It reflects technology, economics, and the unpredictable nature of rarity that fuels the dream of big money discoveries. The D Mint mark on the 1984 penny tells us it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the most productive facilities in U.S. mint history. In 1984, the Denver Mint produced well over 4 billion Lincoln cents, an enormous number that on the surface suggests commonness. Yet within such massive production runs, tiny variations, mistakes, and anomalies can and do occur, and those small differences are what separate an everyday cent from a coin that collectors would pay life-changing sums to own. This is why the 1984 D penny continues to be searched roll by roll, jar by jar, even decades later. By 1984, the United States had already transitioned from the classic bronze Lincoln cent to a copper-plated zinc composition. The weight of the 1984 D penny is approximately 2.5 grams, lighter than the pre-1982 bronze cents that weighed around 3.11 grams. This shift was driven by rising copper prices and economic necessity, but it also introduced new technical challenges. The thin copper plating over a zinc core created opportunities for plating flaws, bonding errors, and striking issues that would later become key factors in identifying rare and valuable varieties. Collectors pay extremely close attention to weight, thickness, and surface texture on 1984 D cents because even a small deviation can signal something extraordinary. The obverse of the coin features Abraham Lincoln, a design first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of his birth. By 1984, this portrait had become one of the most recognizable images in the world. The word liberty appears to the left of Lincoln's portrait, while the motto, "In God We Trust," arches across the top. The date, 1984, sits to the right, with the D Mint mark just below it. While millions of people glance at this design every day without a second thought, serious collectors examine every letter, every curve, and every spacing detail under magnification. This is because certain 1984 D pennies show subtle doubling or distortion, especially in Lincoln's ear and facial features, that can transform an ordinary coin into a legendary one. The reverse design in 1984 still featured the Lincoln Memorial, which had been in use since 1959. The memorial's clean lines, columns, and steps were meant to symbolize stability and honor. Above it, the words United States of America stretch across the top, with E pluribus unum just below. At the bottom sits the denomination 1 cent. On high-grade or specially struck examples, the memorial appears razor-sharp, with clearly defined columns and steps. Weak strikes, missing details, or unusual surface textures can point toward minting anomalies that collectors are eager to investigate. One of the most famous and talked about varieties associated with the 1984 D penny is the so-called double die ear variety. This error involves noticeable doubling around Lincoln's ear, giving it an almost layered appearance. Unlike minor machine doubling, true doubled dies are created during the die manufacturing process, making them far rarer and far more valuable. When found in high mint state condition, this variety can command thousands, tens of thousands, or even more depending on preservation, eye appeal, and market demand. This is the kind of discovery that keeps collectors hunting, because it proves that even in a year of massive production, a single mistake can escape into circulation and rewrite a coin's destiny. The coin symbol of the U.S. 1 cent piece goes beyond just its denomination. It symbolizes American continuity, the honoring of a president who preserved the Union, and the everyday economy of the nation. The Lincoln cent has passed through countless hands, bought newspapers, candy, stamps, and groceries, and yet certain examples are elevated from daily commerce to museum-level artifacts. The 1984 D penny, especially when tied to major error varieties, has become a modern symbol of how value is not always obvious at first glance. When people talk about extraordinary figures like $169 million associated with a single cent, they are usually referring to hypothetical or future market scenarios involving ultra-unique specimens, perfect condition, historical significance, and intense competition among elite collectors. In the highest levels of numismatics, price is not determined by face value or metal content, but by rarity, story, and desire. A coin that represents a once-in-a-lifetime mint error, preserved in flawless condition, authenticated and graded at the absolute top of the scale, and offered at a time when multiple billionaire collectors want it, can reach numbers that sound unbelievable to the average person. This is how the concept of a nine-figure coin enters discussion, not as a promise, but as a reflection of how extreme the top end of the market can become. The market value of a standard circulated 1984D penny is, of course, very small, often just face value. But the market does not operate on averages alone. It operates on exceptions. Uncirculated examples graded MS65, MS66, or higher can already sell for significantly more than 1 cent. Add a major error like a doubled die, off-center strike, or dramatic plating defect, and the value jumps exponentially. Add perfect preservation, strong luster, and certified authenticity, and you enter a realm where serious money comes into play. History teaches us that coins once considered common can later become iconic. Early collectors ignored certain dates and mint marks, only to see them explode in value decades later when populations dwindled or when a specific variety gained recognition. The 1984D penny exists in that space where history is still unfolding. New discoveries are still being made, new varieties are still being studied, and the collector base continues to grow globally. This ongoing evolution keeps the door open for dramatic value shifts in the future. The Denver Mint in 1984 operated at a pace designed for efficiency, not perfection. High-speed presses, massive output, and the pressure to meet circulation demand created conditions where mistakes were inevitable. Most were caught and destroyed, but some slipped through. Those survivors are the coins that fuel stories of hidden treasure. When someone finds a strange-looking 1984D cent in pocket change and takes the time to research it, weigh it, examine it under magnification, and submit it for grading, they participate directly in the living history of American coinage. Collectors often say that coins choose their owners. The idea is that a rare coin can sit unnoticed for decades, waiting for the right person to recognize its importance. The 1984D penny has played that role many times, surprising people who never imagined that a humble cent could connect them to a world of auctions, experts, and potentially massive financial outcomes. This emotional element is just as important as metal, weight, and design when discussing value. As part 1 of this story comes to a pause, the 1984D 1-cent coin stands revealed not as a simple piece of pocket change, but as a complex artifact shaped by history, technology, and human fascination. Its weight of 2.5 grams, its familiar Lincoln design, its Denver mint mark, and its place in a transitional era of U.S. coinage all combine to form a foundation upon which extraordinary rarity and market legends can be built. And this is only the beginning of the journey, because the deeper we go into errors, grading, collector psychology, and real auction results, the more incredible the story of the 1984D penny becomes. As we move deeper into the story of the 1984D 1-cent coin, it becomes clear that understanding value is not just about numbers, but about knowledge, timing, and perception. Every serious collector knows that coins live multiple lives. First, they exist as money, then as collectibles, and finally, for a very small elite group, as legendary assets. The 1984D penny occupies a unique position because it sits right at the intersection of mass production and microscopic rarity, a place where the smallest detail can completely redefine worth. One of the most important factors that separates an ordinary 1984D cent from a potentially fortune-changing specimen is condition. Coin grading is a science and an art combined. Professional grading services examine surface preservation, strike quality, luster, and eye appeal. For modern cents like the 1984D, finding examples in extremely high grades is far more difficult than people assume. Billions were minted, but most entered circulation immediately, where they suffered scratches, dents, oxidation, and wear. Even coins that sat in jars or drawers for years often show contact marks from rubbing against other coins. This is why a truly pristine 1984D penny, especially one with a recognized error, becomes exponentially more valuable. The copper-plated zinc composition plays a critical role here. The thin copper layer is extremely sensitive to environmental damage. Moisture, heat, and improper storage can cause bubbling, peeling, or discoloration. Ironically, while these issues usually reduce value, certain types of plating errors created at the mint can increase it dramatically. Blisters, exposed zinc, incomplete plating, or bonding flaws that occurred during production are considered mint errors, not damage, and when authenticated, they become desirable to specialists. This fine line between damage and error is why expert evaluation is so important. Another layer of fascination with the 1984D penny lies in strike anomalies. Off-center strikes, where the design is shifted noticeably to one side, create dramatic visual appeal. Broad strikes, where the coin spreads beyond its normal boundaries due to collar failure, also draw strong interest. When these errors occur on already famous dates or varieties, they add an extra multiplier to value. A dramatic off-center 1984D penny in high mint-state condition can become a centerpiece in an advanced error collection. Then there is the psychology of collectors and investors. Coin markets are driven not just by supply and demand, but by stories. A coin associated with a famous variety, a discovery narrative, or a sudden surge in popularity can experience explosive price growth. The doubled die ear variety of the 1984D penny gained recognition gradually. Early on, many examples were overlooked or sold cheaply. As awareness spread through collector publications, forums, and auctions, demand surged. Prices followed, sometimes very rapidly. This pattern has repeated itself many times in numismatic history, and it is one reason why people still believe that undiscovered or underappreciated 1984D varieties may exist. The idea of massive figures like $169 million ties directly into the extreme top end of collecting. At that level, buyers are not just purchasing a coin, they are purchasing exclusivity, prestige, and a tangible piece of history that almost no one else can own. In such cases, the coin becomes a trophy asset, comparable to a rare painting, a vintage automobile, or a historic manuscript. If a single, unique 1984D penny were discovered that combined an unprecedented mint error, flawless preservation, and unquestionable authenticity, it could theoretically become the most talked about modern U.S. coin ever known. In a competitive auction environment, with global attention and wealthy collectors involved, values can reach levels that defy traditional expectations. Of the historical context of 1984 also adds subtle depth. The United States was in a period of economic transition, technological advancement, and renewed national confidence. Coinage reflected efficiency and modernization rather than artistry experiments. This makes errors from this era especially intriguing, because they stand out against a background of standardization. When something unusual emerges from a system designed to eliminate variation, it becomes more compelling. Another often overlooked aspect is survival rate. While billions of 1984D cents were made, the number of coins that survive today in top condition is only a tiny fraction of that original mintage. Over time, coins are lost, damaged, melted, or discarded. Zinc cents, in particular, have a shorter lifespan due to corrosion issues. This silent reduction in population gradually increases scarcity at the high end, even for dates that once seemed endlessly available. Collectors who focus on Lincoln cents often build complete sets by date and mint mark, but advanced collectors go further, hunting varieties, die states, and errors. For them, the 1984D penny is not just a slot in an album, it is a field of study. They compare known examples, track auction records, and watch for new discoveries. Each confirmed variety adds another chapter to the coin's story and strengthens its long-term significance. There is also a generational aspect to consider. New collectors enter the hobby every year, often drawn by stories of valuable coins found in pocket change. Modern cents like the 1984D are accessible starting points. As these collectors gain experience and resources, some move into higher-end markets, bringing their early interests with them. This continuity of attention helps sustain demand over decades, rather than letting it fade as a passing trend in everyday life. The 1984D penny remains humble and easily overlooked. Yet beneath that simplicity lies a world of measurement, magnification, authentication, and market dynamics. Weight discrepancies of even a fraction of a gram, subtle doubling visible only under strong magnification, or unusual surface textures can be the difference between 1 cent and a life-altering sum. This contrast is what makes the coin so compelling. As draws to a close, the 1984D 1 cent coin continues to reveal itself as more than a product of a single year. It is a living example of how history, manufacturing, chance, and human desire intersect. From its copper-plated zinc weight to its iconic Lincoln design, from Denver's high-speed presses to the collector's careful eye, every element contributes to a narrative that keeps growing. And the deeper we go, the clearer it becomes that the real power of the 1984D penny lies not just in what it is, but in what it could still become. When we go even further into the universe of the 1984D 1 cent coin, the discussion naturally turns toward discovery, authentication, and the moment when an ordinary person realizes that something extraordinary may be sitting in their hand. This moment is at the heart of why the Lincoln cent, especially a date like 1984D, continues to capture imagination across generations. It is not only about collectors in white gloves or auction houses with bright lights, it is about the everyday search, the careful look, and the possibility that history has quietly placed a treasure in plain sight. The first step in transforming a suspected valuable 1984D penny into a recognized numismatic asset is authentication. No matter how exciting a coin appears, its value remains speculative until it is examined and verified by experts. Professional grading services use advanced equipment, magnification, and metallurgical analysis to confirm weight, composition, strike characteristics, and die features. For a coin tied to major value claims, such as an exceptional double die or an unprecedented mint error, this process is absolutely critical. Authentication separates genuine mint-made anomalies from post-mint damage, which can look dramatic but carries little or no collector value. Once authenticated, grading becomes the next defining factor. Modern coins like the 1984D are often judged very harshly at the highest levels because so many examples exist. Tiny imperfections that would be forgiven on older coins can significantly reduce the grade of a modern cent. This is why a perfect or near-perfect example is so rare. Full luster, clean fields, sharp design elements, and minimal contact marks are essential. When these qualities coincide with a recognized error variety, the result is a coin that sits at the absolute top of its category. The story of discovery often adds another layer of appeal. Coins that are found in circulation, inherited collections, or forgotten jars tend to attract more attention than those that were immediately recognized and set aside. A 1984D penny discovered decades after minting, authenticated as a rare variety, becomes a narrative object. Collectors value stories because they humanize the coin, connecting it to real life rather than just charts and price guides. This narrative power can influence demand and, indirectly, market value. Auction dynamics play a major role in determining how high prices can go. When a rare 1984D penny appears at auction, especially one with unique characteristics, the room or online bidding platform becomes a stage for competition. Two or more determined bidders can push prices far beyond pre-sale estimates. At the highest level, bidders are often motivated by more than profit. They want recognition, the satisfaction of ownership, and the prestige that comes with possessing something almost no one else can. This is how prices can reach extraordinary figures, especially when the coin is marketed as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The global nature of modern collecting cannot be ignored.
While the Lincoln cent is an American coin, its fame extends worldwide. Collectors and investors from Asia, Europe, and the Middle East actively participate in U.S. coin auctions. This global audience expands the pool of potential buyers and increases competition. In such an environment, a truly unique or historically important 1984 penny could attract international attention, pushing its value into territory that once seemed impossible for a modern coin. Another important factor is registry set competition. Many advanced collectors participate in online registries where they compete to assemble the highest graded sets of specific coin series. In these registries, owning the finest known example of a particular coin or variety can elevate a collector's ranking significantly. If a 1984 penny were recognized as the single finest or only example of a major variety, registry competition alone could drive immense demand. The coin becomes a strategic acquisition rather than just a collectible. Over time, scholarship also plays a role in value growth. As researchers study die varieties, production records, and surviving populations, new insights emerge. A variety once thought minor can be reclassified as major. A population once assumed large can be revealed as extremely small. For the 1984 penny, ongoing study of doubled dies, die states, and plating anomalies continues to refine understanding. Each new discovery adds depth to the coin's historical profile and strengthens its place in the numismatic record. There is also an emotional and cultural dimension. The Lincoln cent is deeply woven into American identity. It has been in continuous production longer than almost any other U.S. coin design. This continuity gives even modern dates a sense of heritage. When a specific year like 1984 becomes associated with a famous variety or legendary value claim, it benefits from this broader cultural resonance. People care not just because it is rare, but because it represents something familiar transformed into something extraordinary. From an investment perspective, coins like the 1984 penny challenge conventional thinking. Traditional investments are measured in percentages and predictable growth. Rare coins operate differently. Their value can remain stable for years and then surge dramatically when the right conditions align. Discovery, publicity, changing collector demographics, and record-breaking auction results can all act as catalysts. This unpredictability is both a risk and an attraction, drawing in those who are willing to study, wait, and believe. As concludes, the 1984 1-cent coin stands at the center of a complex ecosystem. It is shaped by minting technology, preserved or altered by time, evaluated by experts, desired by collectors, and propelled by stories. From authentication rooms to auction floors, from local coin shops to global online platforms, its journey continues. And with every new discovery, every new bid, and every new collector who looks closely at a simple penny, the legend of the 1984 cent grows stronger, proving that even the smallest denomination can carry the weight of enormous possibility. As the exploration of the 1984 1-cent coin continues, the focus naturally shifts toward long-term legacy, future potential, and why this specific penny refuses to fade into obscurity despite its modern age and massive original mintage. Coins are time travelers. They carry the imprint of the era in which they were made, but they also move forward, accumulating meaning as decades pass. The 1984 penny is now far removed from its year of birth, and that distance itself adds gravity to its story. One of the most powerful forces shaping future value is scarcity over time. While billions of 1984 cents were struck, the number of examples that remain available for close study shrinks every year. Zinc-based cents are particularly vulnerable to environmental damage. Exposure to moisture causes corrosion that can destroy the coin from the inside out. As a result, many 1984 pennies will not survive another century in collectible condition. This gradual disappearance quietly increases the importance of those that do survive, especially in high grade or with confirmed mint errors. Another key element is documentation. Coins that are well documented, photographed, certified, and recorded in population reports become anchors in numismatic history.
If a rare 1984 penny is listed as the finest known example of its kind, that status can remain for decades, sometimes permanently. Future collectors will not just be buying a coin, they will be buying a position in history. The idea of owning the coin that all others are measured against is incredibly powerful and can drive extraordinary prices. Education and awareness also play a critical role. Each generation of collectors brings new energy, new research methods, and new communication channels. Social media, video platforms, and online communities have dramatically increased the speed at which information spreads. A newly discovered 1984 variety can become globally known in days rather than years. This rapid dissemination amplifies demand and accelerates market reactions, sometimes pushing values far beyond traditional expectations. The symbolism of the penny itself cannot be overlooked. The 1-cent coin represents humility, everyday life, and accessibility. When a coin like the 1984 penny becomes associated with massive potential value, it challenges assumptions about wealth and worth. It tells a story that resonates far beyond the numismatic community, attracting attention from the general public, media, and even those who have never collected a coin before. This broader attention feeds back into the market, increasing interest and competition. Another dimension of the 1984 penny's legacy lies in comparison. Collectors naturally compare famous coins across eras. When discussing modern U.S. coins with legendary status, certain dates and varieties stand out. As scholarship and discovery continue, the 1984 penny has the potential to be mentioned alongside other iconic modern rarities. This comparative status elevates its profile and keeps it relevant in discussions of great American coins. The role of institutions is also significant. Museums, universities, and major private collections influence how coins are perceived. If an extraordinary 1984 penny were to be acquired by a major institution or displayed publicly, it would cement its place in the cultural record. Institutional recognition often stabilizes and enhances value because it signals long-term importance rather than short-term speculation. From a philosophical perspective, the appeal of the 1984 penny lies in its contradiction. It is both ordinary and potentially extraordinary. It is small, inexpensive, and ubiquitous, yet capable of becoming rare, expensive, and celebrated. This contradiction mirrors a broader human fascination with transformation, with the idea that greatness can emerge from the most unassuming origins. Coins capture this idea in physical form, and few modern examples illustrate it as vividly as the 1984 cent. The future market for rare coins will likely be shaped by technology as well. Advanced imaging, digital certification records, and even blockchain-based provenance systems may further enhance transparency and trust. For a coin like the 1984 penny, these tools could make it easier to track individual specimens, verify uniqueness, and preserve history. Increased trust and clarity generally lead to stronger markets, especially at the high end. As comes to a close, the story of the 1984 1-cent coin expands beyond minting details and error varieties into the realm of legacy and meaning. It is no longer just about what the coin is, but about what it represents and how it will be remembered. Each surviving example carries not only metal and design, but decades of handling, collecting, studying, and dreaming. And as time moves forward, the possibility that a single 1984 penny could stand as one of the most talked about modern coins remains alive, fueled by scarcity, story, and the enduring human desire to find extraordinary value in the most ordinary places. As the narrative reaches deeper into the life of the 1984 1-cent coin, attention turns toward human behavior, belief, and the powerful role imagination plays in numismatics. Coins do not gain legendary status by metal alone. They gain it because people believe in their stories, protect them, compete for them, and pass them on. The 1984 penny has steadily grown into such a story, not through age alone, but through curiosity and relentless searching. One of the most fascinating aspects of this coin is how it blurs the line between luck and knowledge. Many people dream of finding a valuable penny, but only those who understand what to look for can recognize one.
This is where education becomes a silent multiplier of value.
The person who knows how to identify true double dies, plating errors, or strike anomalies sees a completely different world than someone who views all pennies as equal. The 1984 D penny rewards attention to detail, patience, and learning. The emotional journey of ownership is another critical layer. When a collector holds a rare coin, especially one discovered unexpectedly, it creates a deep personal connection. That coin becomes a symbol of curiosity rewarded. For a 1984 D penny tied to a major variety, the owner is not just holding copper and zinc, they are holding proof that ordinary objects can still surprise us. This emotional attachment often leads owners to preserve their coins carefully, document them thoroughly, and resist selling too quickly, which in turn limits supply on the open market. Generational transfer also plays a major role in long-term value. Coins are often passed down as heirlooms. A rare 1984 D penny discovered today may be preserved and handed to the next generation, along with its story. Each transfer adds history. Over time, this chain of ownership can enhance a coin's mystique, especially if it remains off the market for long periods. When such a coin finally reappears, demand can be intense. Media influence cannot be ignored. Stories about valuable pennies found in circulation capture public imagination. When a specific date like 1984 D becomes associated with high-value claims, it draws attention far beyond the collector community. News articles, videos, and social media posts encourage people to check their change, creating waves of interest. While most searches end in disappointment, the overall effect is increased awareness and sustained fascination with the coin. From a broader economic viewpoint, rare coins often perform differently from traditional assets. They are tangible, portable, and historically significant. In times of economic uncertainty, some investors turn to collectibles as stores of value. A unique or legendary 1984 D penny, especially one authenticated and widely recognized, could attract interest as an alternative asset. At the extreme high end, price becomes less about intrinsic worth and more about status, rarity, and narrative. The idea of a market value reaching extraordinary figures like $169 million rests on the concept of ultimate uniqueness. For such a number to be discussed seriously, a coin would need to be singular, unmistakable, and irreplaceable. It would need to represent something that cannot be replicated or matched. In numismatics, this level is rarely reached, but when it is, the coins involved become cultural icons. The mere possibility that a modern cent like the 1984 D could enter such a category is what keeps people searching. Ethics and responsibility also come into play. Owners of rare coins act as temporary guardians of history. Proper storage, honest representation, and transparent transactions ensure that the coin story remains intact. Mishandling or misrepresentation can permanently damage both the coin and its reputation. Serious collectors understand that preserving a rare 1984 D penny is about respect as much as profit. Another subtle factor is time. Time allows myths to form, records to be broken, and perceptions to shift. Coins that were once considered interesting can, over decades, become legendary. The 1984 D penny is still relatively young in numismatic terms. Its full story may not yet be written. Future discoveries, new research, and changing collector priorities could elevate its status even further. As draws to a close, the 1984 D 1-cent coin stands as a mirror reflecting human curiosity and belief. It shows how attention can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, how knowledge can unlock hidden value, and how stories grow stronger as they are shared. The coin's journey is not just about metal and minting, but about people, generations, and the enduring hope that somewhere, in something small and overlooked, a remarkable treasure waits to be found. As the journey of the 1984 D 1-cent coin continues, the discussion moves toward destiny, patience, and the slow unfolding of greatness. Coins, unlike many modern objects, are not consumed and discarded. They endure. They wait. The 1984 D penny has spent decades moving through pockets, jars, collections, and storage boxes, quietly existing while the world around it changed. This lone, silent survival is part of what gives it power in the present and potential in the future. Patience is one of the defining virtues in numismatics. Great discoveries are rarely rushed. Many of the most valuable coins in history were not recognized immediately. They sat unnoticed for years, sometimes generations, before someone took the time to look closely. The 1984 D penny fits perfectly into this pattern. Even now, decades after it was minted, new varieties and unusual examples continue to surface. Each discovery reinforces the idea that the book is not yet closed on this coin. The concept of destiny is often discussed among collectors. Some believe that certain coins are meant to be found by certain people at certain times. Whether one views this philosophically or practically, the effect is the same: it keeps people searching. The 1984 D penny, because it is still commonly found in circulation, remains accessible. Anyone, anywhere, can potentially encounter it. This accessibility, combined with the possibility of rarity, creates a unique tension that fuels ongoing interest. Technology has quietly transformed how collectors interact with coins, like the 1984 D cent. High-resolution digital microscopes, precise digital scales, and online databases allow even amateur collectors to examine coins at a professional level. What once required specialized equipment and training is now available to the public. This democratization of tools increases the likelihood that rare varieties will be recognized rather than overlooked. It also means that the collective knowledge base grows faster than ever before. Community plays a crucial role in this process. Online forums, social media groups, and video platforms connect collectors across the globe. When someone shares images of a strange-looking 1984 D penny, hundreds or thousands of eyes may analyze it within hours. This collaborative scrutiny accelerates discovery and validation. It also builds shared narratives, where the community follows the journey of a coin from curiosity to confirmation. The endurance of the Lincoln cent design itself adds another layer of meaning. Few designs in world coinage have remained in use for so long. This continuity creates a bridge between generations. A 1984 D penny links the past to the present, connecting modern collectors to traditions that began in 1909. When a specific date within this long-running series gains special recognition, it benefits from the entire weight of that history. Economic cycles also influence how coins are perceived. During periods of prosperity, collectors may focus on building sets and upgrading quality. During uncertainty, attention often shifts toward rarity and intrinsic stories. A legendary 1984 D penny would appeal in both environments. It offers the thrill of discovery and the stability of historical significance. This dual appeal strengthens its long-term outlook. There is also an element of stewardship involved. Collectors who recognize the importance of a rare coin often feel a responsibility to protect it for the future. Proper storage, controlled environments, and careful handling ensure that the coin's condition remains intact. This preservation is essential because, at the highest levels of value, even tiny changes can have enormous financial consequences. A perfectly preserved 1984 D penny could remain a benchmark for decades. As comes to an end, the 1984 D 1 cent coin stands as a symbol of endurance and possibility. It reminds us that value does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it waits, quietly, in the most familiar places. Through patience, technology, community, and time, the full story of this coin continues to unfold. And with each passing year, the idea that something extraordinary could still emerge from a simple penny remains not just a dream, but a living possibility. As the story of the 1984 D 1 cent coin moves into an even deeper phase, the focus turns toward legacy in the truest sense: how history judges objects, how legends are formed, and how a single coin can transcend its physical form to become an idea. At this stage, the penny is no longer just discussed as currency or even as a collectible, but as a symbol of transformation, patience, and belief. History shows that legends are rarely born fully formed. They grow slowly, shaped by repetition, storytelling, and shared fascination. The 1984 penny has followed this path. At first, it was simply another modern cent. Then came attention to specific varieties and errors. Then came stories of high-grade survivors, dramatic discoveries, and escalating interest. Over time, these threads weave together into a legend that feels larger than the coin itself. One of the strongest forces behind this process is comparison across time. Collectors often look back at coins that were once ignored and later became icons. This retrospective thinking fuels present-day belief. The 1984 penny benefits from this mindset because it sits at a moment in history that is close enough to feel familiar yet distant enough to feel historical. As years turn into decades, that sense of historical distance will only grow stronger. Another element shaping legacy is scarcity of attention. As new coins are produced every year, attention shifts constantly. Only a few dates manage to hold interest over long periods. The fact that the 1984 penny continues to be discussed, searched, and studied speaks to its staying power. Coins that remain in conversation are the ones that tend to gain long-term significance. There is also a philosophical dimension to collecting that cannot be ignored. Collectors often see themselves as participants in a story larger than themselves. Owning a rare coin connects them to the past and to future generations. A truly exceptional 1984 penny would carry this sense of continuity very strongly. Its owner would not just possess an object, but a chapter in an ongoing narrative that stretches beyond individual lifetimes. The concept of extreme value, such as figures reaching into the hundreds of millions, challenges traditional ideas about money and worth. At that level, value becomes symbolic. It reflects what society chooses to celebrate, preserve, and compete for. If a 1984 penny were ever to reach such heights, it would not be because of copper content or denomination, but because it came to represent something unique and irreplaceable within the cultural imagination. Education continues to play a silent but decisive role. Each article, video, or discussion about the 1984 penny adds another layer to its public identity. Over time, these layers accumulate into a collective understanding that elevates the coin beyond obscurity. Knowledge, once spread, cannot be undone. It only grows, and with it grows the coin's perceived importance. Another factor is endurance of interest across generations. When younger collectors adopt the stories and passions of older ones, legends survive. The Lincoln Cent series has proven especially effective at this transfer because it is approachable and familiar. The 1984 penny benefits from being part of a series that naturally invites lifelong engagement. This continuity ensures that its story will not be forgotten easily. As draws to a close, the 1984 1-cent coin stands at the edge between object and legend. It has moved beyond metal and minting into the realm of meaning. Its value, whether measured in dollars or in fascination, continues to grow through attention, belief, and time. And as long as people continue to look closely at ordinary things, hoping to find something extraordinary, the story of the 1984 penny will continue to evolve, waiting for its next chapter to be written. As the journey of the 1984 1-cent coin approaches its most reflective stage, the focus turns inward, toward meaning, memory, and the quiet power of continuity. By this point, the penny has traveled far beyond its original role as small change. It has become a vessel of thought, a reminder that history is not only written in books and monuments, but also carried in everyday objects that survive alongside us. Memory plays a powerful role in numismatics. Coins are among the few objects that pass through countless lives, unchanged in form yet constantly changing in context. A 1984 penny may have been used by a child buying candy, a worker making exact change, or a collector beginning a lifelong hobby. Each interaction leaves no physical mark, yet contributes to the invisible history of the coin. When such an object later becomes recognized as rare or important, all those unseen moments become part of its mystique. The idea of preservation becomes more profound at this stage. Preserving a rare coin is not only about preventing physical damage, but about preserving knowledge. Documentation, photographs, certifications, and written histories ensure that future generations understand why a particular 1984 penny mattered. Without this context, even the rarest object can lose significance. With it, the coin becomes a teaching tool and a link between eras. There is also a meditative quality to collecting. Searching through coins, examining details, and learning subtle distinctions encourages patience and focus in a fast-moving world. The 1984 penny, with its potential for hidden variety, invites this kind of attention. It slows the observer down, asking them to look closely and think carefully. In this way, its value extends beyond money into personal experience. Cultural memory is shaped by what societies choose to remember and celebrate. Coins that gain legendary status often do so because they capture a shared imagination. The story of a humble penny with extraordinary potential resonates because it reflects broader human themes: hope, curiosity, and transformation. The 1984 penny embodies these themes in a particularly accessible way, making its story easy to share and retell. The passage of time will continue to reshape perceptions. What feels modern today will feel historical tomorrow. As the 1984 penny moves further into the past, its connection to a specific era of American life will become clearer. Collectors of the future may look back on the late 20th century with the same sense of distance and fascination that modern collectors feel toward earlier periods. This temporal shift often enhances value and interest. Another quiet force at work is comparison with future coinage. As designs, materials, and minting practices change, older coins stand out. The Lincoln Memorial Reverse, replaced in later years, already marks the 1984 penny as part of a closed chapter in design history. This closure adds definition and strengthens its identity within the broader timeline of U.S. coinage. As reaches its conclusion, the 1984 1-cent coin stands as a keeper of memory and meaning. It reminds us that significance is not always obvious at the moment of creation. Sometimes it emerges slowly, shaped by time, attention, and shared stories. Whether viewed as a potential treasure, a historical artifact, or a symbol of patience, the 1984 penny continues to hold space in the collective imagination, quietly affirming that even the smallest objects can carry immense weight across generations. As the story moves forward into this next stage, the 1984 1-cent coin begins to feel less like an object and more like a quiet witness to time. Coins do not speak, yet they observe everything. They pass through economic booms and recessions, through cultural shifts, technological revolutions, and changing values. The 1984 penny has lived through decades of transformation, remaining physically the same while the world around it evolved, and that silent endurance adds a subtle authority to its presence. There is something powerful about the idea that a coin minted in enormous quantities can still contain individuality. No two coins age in exactly the same way. Scratches, toning, wear patterns, and preservation environments all leave unique signatures. For rare or exceptional examples of the 1984 penny, this individuality becomes part of identity. At the highest levels of collecting, coins are not interchangeable units, they are recognized as specific, singular specimens with their own histories. Trust is another essential element that shapes ultimate value. The numismatic world relies heavily on credibility, expertise, and transparency. When a coin is widely trusted as genuine, accurately graded, and properly documented, confidence grows around it. Confidence attracts serious collectors, investors, and institutions. A legendary 1984 penny would not only need to be rare, but trusted beyond question. This trust is built slowly, through repeated examination, scholarly agreement, and consistent documentation. The relationship between rarity and desire is complex. True rarity alone does not guarantee extreme value, desire must exist alongside it. The 1984 penny benefits from being part of a series that many people care about. Lincoln cents are often the first coins people collect.
That early emotional connection can last a lifetime. When a familiar coin becomes extraordinary, desire intensifies because it combines nostalgia with achievement. There is also a social aspect to legendary coins. They become reference points in conversations, articles, and debates. People compare other coins to them, measure expectations against them, and use them as benchmarks. If a single 1984 penny were ever universally recognized as unmatched, it would become such a reference point. Its name alone would carry meaning, instantly understood within the collecting community. The future role of storytelling cannot be overstated. Stories give structure to memory. They explain why something matters. A compelling story around a 1984 penny, how it was made, lost, found, studied, and preserved, would travel far beyond coin circles. It would be retold in classrooms, videos, and discussions, reinforcing the coin's status with each repetition. Over time, the story and the coin become inseparable. Another dimension is humility. Despite all the discussion of immense value and legendary potential, the coin itself remains physically small and simple. This contrast deepens its appeal. It reminds us that importance is not always loud or grand. Sometimes it is quiet, compact, and easily overlooked. This lesson resonates deeply and contributes to why the penny, more than many other coins, captures imagination. As Part 9 comes to a close, the 1984 1-cent coin stands firmly in the space between past and future. It carries accumulated meaning from decades already lived, while still holding room for new chapters yet to come. Its journey is shaped by trust, desire, individuality, and story. And as long as people continue to search, study, and believe, the narrative of the 1984 penny remains unfinished, waiting for the moment when history decides just how extraordinary it will ultimately become. As this long journey reaches its ending, the 1984 1-cent coin stands not as a conclusion, but as a complete circle. What began as a small piece of everyday money has unfolded into a story of history, patience, belief, and possibility. The coin itself has not changed, yet everything around it has: time, understanding, technology, and human perception. This transformation is the true heart of the 1984 penny's legacy. At the end of all analysis, speculation, and imagination, one truth remains clear: value is created by attention. Millions of pennies pass unnoticed every day, but the moment someone chooses to look closely, to question, to learn, a new reality opens. The 1984 penny represents that moment of awareness. It invites people to slow down and recognize that even the most ordinary objects can carry extraordinary meaning. History will continue to move forward, and with each passing year, the distance between now and 1984 will grow. That distance will add weight to the coin's story. What feels modern today will feel historical tomorrow. Future collectors will look back at this era and see it with fresh eyes, just as we look back at earlier periods. In that future view, the 1984 penny may stand as a marker of transition, curiosity, and discovery. The dream of immense value, figures that seem almost impossible, exists not only as a financial concept, but as a symbol of hope. It reflects the human desire to believe that something small can become something great. Whether or not a single 1984 penny ever reaches the extreme heights imagined, the belief itself fuels learning, collecting, and preservation. That belief keeps history alive. In the end, the 1984 1-cent coin teaches a quiet lesson. Great stories do not always come from rare beginnings. Sometimes they come from abundance, from the most common places, waiting for someone to notice the difference. This penny, struck in billions, reminds us that uniqueness is not always about how many exist, but about how one is seen, understood, and remembered. As this final part closes, the 1984 penny remains what it has always been in form, yet far more in meaning. It is a witness to time, a canvas for belief, and a symbol of endless possibility. And long after this story is told and retold, somewhere a simple cent will still be waiting, quietly carrying the hope that history, value, and wonder can exist even in the smallest of things.